Hello, good morning. So, yes, I'm attempting to make a video while I'm in the hospital, which is weirdly hard because I think people think that you should literally just lay around watching TV and sleeping in the hospital, but it's like a constant, like people are in here all the time. So I have like an hour window before treatments come in, so I figured I would just eat my breakfast, take my pills, and talk. I want to talk about bucket lists because, first of all, they piss me off. Like, I'm not even gonna preface this with anything nice. I hate bucket lists. I think they're so dumb. I think they're literally the dumbest way of going through life and going about life, and especially the dumbest thing to do when you figure out you're dying. But I first want to say that I don't think that people who have bucket lists are dumb. I'm not like I'm not like, this isn't going to be like you all are stupid for having a bucket list. Like I understand the need and the want to combat the kind of fear and the pain with some kind of like action list of being able to do something that will make you feel like when you go, you've done life successfully. Like I understand, I get why people have them and I understand why they're a thing. But fundamentally, I think what's behind them and why they exist is dumb and wrong and shallow and empty and such a hollow way to look at life, and especially such an empty way to look at life when you're close to the end. And I've always felt this. Like since I was young, I've always felt this. And I also want to say that I want to preface this whole rant with the fact that I'm also speaking from a place of having done a lot of things that people would have on their bucket list, and I didn't have it on a bucket list, right? So like, I'll do like a little background. Which is so dumb. You can tell I'm in like I don't want to make a video mood because I want to be like sarcastic about everything I say. I want to be like I want to like make fun of everything that I say and like take none of it seriously. A little background. So when I was 13, I started doing public speaking, and that was because I started a nonprofit, which is incredibly hard to get up off the ground, and it is so hard to get people to care about what you have to say. I mean, I think with anything, with any kind of business, with any kind of project, whatever, it is so hard to get people to care about what you're doing because people are just, I mean, fundamentally, everyone has so much to care about in their own sphere, you know? So, like, who gives a crap about what CF is or the people who's affected by it? And I don't even mean that in a bitter way. I mean, like, if I didn't have CF, I probably wouldn't give it about CFers. We're going to leave that out because we want to get monetized. So in order to get people to care about what I was doing so that my foundation wouldn't die in the first year of existing, I became a public speaker because that was the best way to do it. Is you kind of can get the word out about what you're doing and also hit people's emotional strings and also kind of actually share something that I felt was important. So I started doing that at 14. Actually became really shockingly successful at it. Although I don't think it was that shocking to anyone that knew me because I like to talk. Like talking is literally my favorite pastime. Like talking and thinking are pretty much the only things that I'm good at doing. So it actually makes 100% sense that I became a public speaker. But anyway, I became very good at it actually, and I really love it and started making money. And what happened that I didn't even plan, but when I grew up, my big thing is I really wanted to travel a lot. Like it was never written out, it was never like a planned thing. It was just something that I fundamentally knew I wanted was to travel. It felt really right. And then I started speaking, and then I started being able to travel like everywhere for free. People fly you out to beautiful resorts and beautiful places to speak at like conferences, and so I got to start traveling and actually having really insanely weird, crazy experiences and like adventures. And I mean, that sounds corny to say that it was adventures, but it genuinely was. Like we had so many weird stories from traveling. Like I got to go to Amsterdam, which was insane. just a lot of really like beautiful experiences that I'm tremendously grateful for. So I want to say that while I'm dumping on the notion of bucket lists, I'm doing it from a place of like, they're not that special to me because I have experienced a lot of those things. You know what I mean? I got to like fly on a biplane over to a little island, and like, I've gotten to do that stuff. And so I think that there's a level of I'm like, oh, they're dumb, but like I don't want to. What am I trying to say? I guess I'm trying to acknowledge my privilege. Like, I'm trying to say that I know that I've been really lucky to be able to do this stuff. But I think that there's an actual distinction that I want to make, is that I didn't do those things because they were on some arbitrary list that I decided, okay, these things are going to make my life worth living, because fundamentally those things didn't make my life worth living. They were nice, they were beautiful experiences, but they did not make me any prouder of myself or of my life. They didn't make me feel like I respected myself any more than I did before. They didn't make me feel like I had given anything of myself or had anything to, they didn't make me feel accomplished in any way. What made me feel really accomplished was the work that I was doing. And looking back on it now, the stuff that sticks is like a mixture of the adventure, but also, the ability the kind of gift that I was given to actually be able to talk about things that I felt like were important. I think it's really hard to find a place in life and like a niche where you can actually talk about what you think is important openly, and people want to listen. That's really rare, and that's the stuff that sticks with me. So my point about this whole video, because I'm going to try and make this not 20 minutes, maybe, which is, if we're lucky. So I think that the fundamental concept underneath bucket list, like the drive behind wanting to do that, is that you want to feel accomplished and happy and satisfied at the end of your life, right? You want to feel like you've done things and seen the world and experienced things. But the problem with that is that, first of all, I don't believe that life is about having a list that you just check off, right? And I think this goes a lot deeper than just bucket lists. I think this is how most people live their life, is an arbitrary list in their brain of things that they're going to check off one day that are going to make things a little bit better or a little bit easier. And something that I had to come to terms with in the past, I'd say 5 years of my life, is that there is never, ever going to be a time where life isn't painful. There's never going to be a time where life is easy and there's no suffering and there's no hardship, ever. No matter who you are, no matter what you do, no matter where you are in the world, right? Like what beautiful things you're experiencing, the pain and the suffering and the despair of being alive is going to catch up to you always. It's inevitable. And the way I came to this conclusion is probably like another video in and of itself, but I mean, the fundamental truth is, I'm sick and I'm dying and things hurt a lot, but at the same time, everyone else I've ever known is just as miserable, if not more so miserable than myself. So there's just a fundamental quality of being miserable in life, and I've never met anyone, no matter how successful, how whatever, who's okay and who doesn't feel pain, a lot of it. There is no way of living that can get you out of feeling the kind of despair of being alive. And even though that sounds depressing, to me it's actually incredibly hopeful, because once you let go of that need to rid yourself of things that are uncomfortable, once you stop trying to be comfortable all the time and you stop trying to find things that are going to make everything feel better, once your main drive behind life and what you do, your main decision-making point is not based on running away from pain, then all of a sudden you can actually do something of value with your life. And I think it is impossible to be truly okay with yourself and truly respect yourself unless you accept the fact that there's nothing you're ever going to do that's going to, there's nothing you're ever going to do that's going to get you out of having to suffer. So the reason I say that in relation to the bucket list is because I think the bucket list is this notion that if you just do things a certain way and you just go out and you conquer and you check things off your list and you have certain experiences and you meet certain people and you have certain circumstances in your life, that you're going to feel better, that you're going to be okay, that you're going to be able to say, hey, I'm proud of what I've done. But there's no substance to any of that. It's an adrenaline high, right? You traveling is just a high. For me, it's a complete high. It's like being on an adventure and being with people and like being in new places. It gets me off. It's great. It's fun. I love it, right? But that doesn't mean that it's going to make me respect myself anymore, or that it's going to make my life any, that it's going to make me be able to look back on my life and say that I've done something that I'm actually proud of and okay with, right? Like, it's fun to, bucket lists are fundamentally selfish. And I think it's interesting that they're so pushed upon people. Like, every time I've shared my experience with people, I'd say like 35% of the time, people's response to me is, oh, you should have a bucket list. No, I don't want a bucket list. I don't need to go travel to Costa Rica. I don't need to try peyote. I don't need to, I don't know. What do people have on their bucket list? I don't know. I don't need that. You know what I need? I need to feel okay about myself. I need to feel like I'm a functioning person who's contributing something to the world. I need to feel useful to society and useful to the people around me. I need to have some deep connection with other people. Maybe you can count that as a bucket list in and of itself. So I guess in that roundabout way, sure, I do believe in bucket lists. I just think that they should be a lot different than what they currently are. But I think it is fundamentally selfish to have bucket lists like that. And I think it's interesting because there's nothing wrong with that innately. Like, we are selfish creatures. It's fine to do things that you like. What is wrong, the thing that I think is off, is that a bucket list is not going to make you feel better when you die. And I think that's the difference. I think there's nothing wrong with having a list of things you want to experience while you're alive. I think it's great. We are alive. We should experience weird things. Great. Power to you. What I do think is wrong is the fact that we believe that checking things off a list like that is going to make our lives worth living. It's not. Giving something of ourselves is going to make our life worth living. There's very few things that I'm certain of, and that is one of them. That's actually probably the only thing that I'm certain of in this life, is that giving yourself away, giving everything you have to give, is the only thing that's going to make you feel okay. And that has nothing to do with what you experience. That has nothing to do with what circumstance you're in. That has nothing to do with whether you're jumping out of a plane in Bali or not. That has to do with who you are as a person. And it's incredibly painful to look at yourself, really look at yourself, and really evaluate what it is you've done in your life and what you've given, and whether or not you've spent your time running away from things that are painful or not. I think it's one of the most painful things that I've ever done is really look at myself and realize that I don't fundamentally respect who I am. And not because I've done anything really horrible, but because I'm not the person that I want to be. And I think that I'm doing so many things right now in my life that are so uncomfortable. Oh my gosh. I'm so overwhelmed and scared and in pain literally every single day. And I could not do it, but I'm trying desperately to make my life into something that, that I'd be kind of proud to live. That sounds corny. And that's uncomfortable. That is so uncomfortable. And I think that we have this notion that, I went on a rant about this on Instagram the other day, but we have this notion that the things that we do in life that are good and the things that we do that we're supposed to be doing are going to feel good, right? We think that if something's right and if it's what we're supposed to be doing in life, it's going to feel good, it's going to be easy, it's going to make us feel happy. It's the dumb notion of like, follow your bliss, like follow what makes you happy, which I've never believed in, because fundamentally the things that are going to make your life something that is solid and that is real and that is livable and workable and growable, which I know that's not a word, but the things that are going to make your life something that you can really hold on to and say, look, here, this is what I've done, this is what I've made, this is what I have to give. Those things are going to be the most painful things. They're not going to be like things on your bucket list. They're not going to be things that make you happy and comfortable. They're going to be horribly painful and uncomfortable and overwhelming and scary. And I think that that's why it's so impressive when people do it. That's why it's so amazing when people live good lives, whatever that means, right? But when people, you can kind of always tell when someone's living when someone's genuinely trying to show up for their life, it's pretty obvious. And what makes it so impressive is that it is uncomfortable to do. And so I'm not like nagging on bucket lists. I'm nagging on this belief that chasing things that make you happy are going to fundamentally make you happy in the end. Because it's not, it's a huge trap, right? Like if you spend your whole life just trying to be happy, you're pretty much just spending your whole life trying to get, dopamine and serotonin to fire in your brain. It's like, well, then just get high, And I don't mean that in a like drug endorsement way. I mean, doing things to just make yourself happy is on the same level as just, tricking your brain and getting high or drinking or whatever, right? Like just do that instead, honestly. But if you want to do something that's going to it's going to make your life worth living, that takes being uncomfortable, and that takes being, I don't know. All I'm trying to say is that I have nothing against bucket lists, but I do have something against opting for the easy way out, So, there you go. That was my rant. I don't know if any of that made sense. I'm thinking back as to how I articulated any of that, and I don't know if I got my point across. I don't think I did. Oh well. I can make another video in the future, It's not like a one-time thing. Alright, well, that's that. So I'll make another video soon. Okay. Bye.